Subscribe my channel and press bell icon to get all notification.
Hello students, you know we are discussing the human respiratory system, and now let's start with the lungs. All other parts of the respiratory system like this external nares, nasal chamber, then this pharynx, larynx, trachea, all these regions we have already discussed in our previous video. Now let's start with the lungs. The next part of the respiratory system is the lungs. First of all, let's talk about the position of the lungs. The lungs are located into the thoracic region of the human body. We have one pair of lungs. The one lung, it is the left lung. This one is the left lung. And this one is the right lung. So we have two lungs, or we can say that one pair lungs are present in the human body. And these lungs are found into the thoracic cavity. Thoracic region में thoracic cavity form होती है और उस cavity के अंदर ये lungs जो है वो present रहते हैं. So let's see how this thoracic cavity is formed. These lungs are present into the thoracic cavity. And this thoracic cavity is formed by the different parts of the body. Let's see. सबसे पहले अगर हम देखें dorsally this thoracic cavity is formed by the vertebral column. हमारे जो vertebral column होते हैं पीछे की तरफ, this is our dorsal surface and this one is our ventral surface. So dorsally this thoracic cavity is formed by the vertebral column. Then ventrally अगर हम बात करें, ventrally it is made by the sternum. Sternum is the small bone जो हमारी present होती है यहाँ पे thoracic region में. This bone is the sternum which make the thoracic cavity at its ventral position. So ventrally it is made by the sternum. Then we will see that it is made by the laterally by the ribs. Laterally the ribs will form this thoracic cavity. It's formed by the ribs. And at the lower surface, the lower side, this thoracic cavity is made by a dome-shaped muscular structure which is known as diaphragm. So this is the diaphragm which makes the thoracic cavity at its lower surface. This is the diaphragm. It's a muscular structure. So by the combination of all these parts, the vertebral column, sternum, ribs and the diaphragm, a case-like structure is formed. This case is known as rib case, or it can be called as a thoracic cavity. In this thoracic cavity, both of these two lungs are placed. दोनों lungs present रहते हैं, and this thoracic cavity helps to change the volume of these lungs by changing the volume of this thoracic cavity. Thoracic cavity का जो area है वो change होता रहता है इन और parts की movement की वजह से, जिसकी वजह से lungs का भी area change होगा, volume increase होगा, and it helps in the breathing process. So it has very important role. So this is about the position of the lungs. Now let's see what are the membranes which cover the lungs. As we saw that there we have two lungs. These two lungs are covered by a double membranous sac. दोनों जो लंग होते हैं वो double membrane से covered रहते हैं. They have covered by the double membrane structure. This double membrane has one outer membrane and one inner membrane. तो यहाँ पे जो membrane होगी वो दो तरीके की होगी. एक बाहर की तरफ है, that will form the outer membrane, and another one which is present towards the inner side is known as inner membrane. The outer membrane is also known as parietal membrane. It is known as parietal pleuron or parietal pleuron, and the inner membrane is known as visceral pleuron. These are the two membranes by which these two lungs are covered. It's a double membranous sac. Outer membrane, inner membrane. Outer membrane is the parietal pleuron, inner membrane is the visceral pleuron. और दोनों ही membranes के combination से एक sac-like structure present है जो lungs को cover कर रही है. And in between both of these two membranes, a space is present, a cavity is present. दोनों membrane के बीच में एक space present रहता है जिसे हम pleural cavity कहते हैं. And this cavity is filled by a liquid which is known as pleural fluid. It's known as pleural fluid. Pleural fluid का काम क्या है? That it helps in the collapsing or the दोनों की दोनों मेम्ब्रेन एक दूसरे के कांटेक्ट में ना आए, कोलैप्स ना हो जाए, इस चीज को प्रोटेक्शन करने का काम कर रहा है। तो दिस इज द रोल ऑफ प्लूरल फ्लूइड दैट इज प्रेजेंट इन द प्लूरल कैविटी ऑफ दीज लंग्स. So this is all about the membranes. Now let's see the external structure of the lungs. Now let's discuss the external structure of the lungs. As you see that we have two lungs, left lung and right lung. The left lung is smaller in size as compared to the right lung. Size के according the जो left lung होता है वो size में small होता है right lung से. And अगर हम इनके lobes की बात करें, these lungs are further divided into the different lobes. Internally they are also divided by the small fissures. कुछ fissures होती हैं जो इन lungs को divide करती हैं. This left lung is divided into the two lobes. Like here we can see a fissure is a structure, this partition is there which divide the left lung into the two lobes. So left lung is divided into the two lobes. It is divided into the two lobes. The upper lobe is known as superior lobe. ऊपर वाला जो lobe होगा वो कहलाएगा superior lobe. And the inner one, the नीचे वाला, that will known as inferior lobe. So one is superior and another one is the inferior lobes, and they are formed by a fissure, that oblique fissure. It divides the lungs internally into the two lobes, superior lobe and inferior lobe. Similarly, the right lung is also divided into the lobes and it is divided into the three lobes. जो right lung होगा वो divide होता है three lobes के अंदर. It is divided into the three lobes. First, that is the superior lobe. That one is superior. The superior lobe is present here. Like here, the fissure is present. This kind of fissure is present here, which divide the lung into the two lobes. The upper part is the superior lobe. Then one more fissure will be there, which divide further this lung into the two lobes. This one is the middle lobe and this one is the inferior lobe. So here, the right lung is divided into the three lobes by the two fissures. This one is known as the horizontal fissure. This one the horizontal fissure and this one will be the oblique fissure, which divide the right lung into the three lobes. The first is the superior lobe, second one is the middle lobe, and the third one is the inferior lobe. So these are the three lobes of the right lung. Right lung has the three lobes, left lung has the two lobes, superior lobe and inferior lobe. And now in the left lung, here we have seen a notch-like structure. एक notch-like structure present होती है. This is the structure where we can say that the heart get located. ये वो structure होती है जहाँ पे heart located होता है, heart present रहता है. So this is the reason where the heart is present, and for this notch-like structure is known as cardiac notch. इसे हम बोलेंगे cardiac notch. This is the reason cardiac notch. This is the reason where the heart is get located in between these two lungs. दोनों lungs के बीच में heart present है, and it is present at the cardiac notch. And for the presence of this heart, or due to the presence of this cardiac notch, the size of the left lung becomes smaller than the right lung. इसका size जो है वो छोटा हो जाता है right lung के comparison में. Now let's see. Here we can see the one more structure also, that is the diaphragm. This is also the diaphragm. This diaphragm is present here. This is a muscular structure, muscular sheet-like structure होती है जो dome-shaped होती है. And this diaphragm is divide the thoracic cavity through the abdominal cavity. Thoracic cavity और abdominal cavity को separate करने का काम करता है, and it can change its shape during the breathing process. That we will discuss when we discuss the mechanism of breathing. वहाँ पे हम देखेंगे कि diaphragm कैसे help कर रहा है हमारा breathing process के अंदर अपनी shape को change करके. So this is external structure of these lungs. Now let's see what is present inside these lungs. So start with internal structure. The internal structure of the lung, we can say that the lungs has this trachea. This trachea, when it comes and enters into the lung, it divides into the two parts, which is known as primary bronchus और प्राइमरी ब्रोंकाइज, जिसे हम बोल रहे हैं प्राइमरी ब्रोंकाइज के अंदर डिवाइड होकर ट्रैकिया लंग्स के अंदर एंटर करती है. एंड इनसाइड द लंग्स दिस प्राइमरी ब्रोंकस will divide into the secondary bronchi. It will divide into the secondary bronchi, and the secondary bronchi will divide into the tertiary bronchi. So in this way, that further dividation of this trachea is happen. जो डक्ट्स अंदर एंटर कर रही है लंग्स के अंदर, वहां पे डिवाइड भी करती रहेंगी, एंटर करने के बाद भी स्मॉलर एंड स्मॉलर साइज के अंदर कन्वर्ट होती रहेंगी. सो प्राइमरी ब्रोंकस, प्राइमरी ब्रोंकस और प्राइमरी ब्रोंकाइज, it will enter into the lungs, then they divide, they will make the secondary bronchus or secondary bronchi बनाएंगे. Secondary bronchi will divide to make the tertiary bronchi. It will make the tertiary bronchi, and the tertiary bronchi will further divide into the bronchioles. Tertiary bronchi जो होगी वो फिर divide हो जाएगी bronchioles के अंदर. तो अगर हम थोड़ा सा देखें डायग्राम के अकॉर्डिंग, suppose this is the trachea. This is the trachea. It is entering by making the primary bronchus in both of these two lungs, left lung and the right lung. This primary bronchus will further divide. Primary bronchus जो है वो फिर से divide हो गई है. This will known as the secondary bronchi. This is the primary bronchi. This will be the secondary bronchi. Similarly, here also secondary bronchi will form. This secondary bronchi will further divide to make the tertiary bronchi. So this will the tertiary bronchi. These tertiary bronchi will further divide to make the bronchioles. ये divide होंगी to make the bronchioles. They make at the terminal, we can call it the terminal bronchi. Terminal bronchi बना देंगी और terminal bronchi फिर जो है bronchioles के अंदर divide हो जाती हैं. अब यहाँ पे जो bronchioles का भी dividation है वो हम देख सकते हैं कि bronchioles में क्या होता है. That initially this tertiary bronchi it will make the structure. It will make a structure which is known as the lobular bronchioles. It will be the lobular bronchiole. We already said that primary, secondary, tertiary bronchi, they will make the bronchioles. Bronchioles बनाएंगी. So first they make the bronchioles, lobular bronchioles. This lobular bronchioles will divide to make the terminal bronchioles. Further इनमें फिर से division होता रहेगा. They will make the terminal bronchioles. Terminal bronchioles, and these terminal bronchioles will further divide to make the respiratory bronchioles. They will divide to make the respiratory bronchioles, and these respiratory bronchioles, तो यहाँ पे भी हम दिखा सकते हैं, this is the lobular bronchioles. ये lobular bronchiole हो गई है हमारी. उसके बाद ये हमारी terminal bronchiole हो गई. This one is the respiratory bronchioles. These respiratory bronchioles will open into a duct which is known as alveolar duct. It will open into a duct which is alveolar ducts, and these ducts will, all of these will make a sac-like structure which is known as alveolar sac. So this kind of structure is present here. We can draw it here also. Terminal bronchiole. It will divide into the respiratory bronchioles, and these respiratory bronchioles will open into the ducts which open into the alveoli. These are the alveoli, an irregular shaped bag-like or structure. They are known as alveoli, and the combination of these alveoli are known as alveolar sac. So let's see what is happening here. In the internal structure of the lungs, we can say that when primary bronchus enter into the lungs, it divides into the two parts, that is known as secondary bronchi. It will further divide to make the secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi will divide into the tertiary bronchi. Tertiary bronchi will further divide into the bronchioles. Tertiary bronchi फिर bronchioles में divide होगी. And for the division in the tertiary bronchioles, that bronchioles first they will make the lobular bronchioles. Then they make the terminal bronchioles, and the terminal bronchioles will make the respiratory bronchioles. These respiratory bronchioles will open through a duct which is known as alveolar duct. They open into the alveoli. They open into the alveoli, which are irregular shaped bag-like structures. And these alveoli combined, they are known as alveolar sac. This complete sac is the alveolar sac. So all these alveoli are the site where the actual gases exchange happens. They have very thin membrane and they have very high supply of the blood. They are regularly in contact with the blood capillaries. ये blood capillaries के presence में रहती है. यहाँ पे blood capillaries present रहेंगी in एल्वियोलाइज के कनेक्शन में, और उन ब्लड कैपिलरीज के कांटेक्ट की वजह से ये वो साइट है जहां पे गैसेस एक्सचेंज होता है. लाइक दीज आर दीज डक्ट्स, ब्लड की डक्ट्स है, एंड दीज आर दी एल्वियोलाइज. ये एल्वियोलाइज है. तो ये एल्वियोलाइज में से ऑक्सीजन जो है, सॉरी ब्लड से जो ऑक्सीजन जो है वो एल्वियोलाइज के अंदर एंटर करती है, और एल्वियोलाइज यहाँ से आएगी ऑक्सीजन एल्वियोलाइज के अंदर, और एल्वियोलाइज से जो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड है वो जाएगी ब्लड के अंदर. सो दिस टाइप ऑफ गैसेस एक्सचेंज, एक्चुअल जो गैसेस एक्सचेंज है वो एल्वियोलाइज में ही जाने के बाद होता है. यहाँ पे हम एक चीज देख सकते हैं दैट फ्रॉम एक्सटर्नल लेयर्स टू दीज टर्मिनल ब्रोंक्यूल्स, यहां तक का जो पाथ होता है फ्रॉम एक्सटर्नल लेयर्स टू टर्मिनल ब्रोंक्यूल्स, मींस कौन कौन से रीजन आ गए इसके अंदर. एक्सटर्नल लेयर्स, nasal chamber, internal layers, pharynx, larynx, trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, then lobular bronchioles and the terminal bronchioles. यहां तक का जो रीजन होता है इट इज नॉन एज कंडक्टिंग रीजन, और कंडक्टिंग पाथ बोलेंगे, ये कंडक्टिंग रीजन बोलेंगे. दिस इज द रीजन वेयर द एयर इज ट्रांसफर्ड, इट कैन बी ह्यूमिडिफाइड, इट कैन बी फिल्टर्ड. तो सिर्फ एयर ट्रांसफर कर रही है, उसका फिल्ट्रेशन किया जा रहा है, उसे ह्यूमिडिफाई किया जा रहा है. बट from this respiratory bronchioles to this alveoli, यहाँ का जो रीजन होता है that reason is known as respiratory reasons or gases exchange reason. एक्चुअल जो gases exchange होगा वो इसी रीजन में आके होता है. So this is all about the structure of the human respiratory system. One thing you also should remember that this inner lining of this membrane, or we can say that membrane of these alveoli are lined by the lecithin. They are lined by the lecithin. ये जो इनकी membrane होती है lecithin से lined होती है. lecithin के बारे में हम already पढ़ चुके हैं in the biomolecules chapter. The function of this lecithin is that it's lower the surface tension of these alveoli so that these alveoli can remain open. So this is about the lecithin. At the time of the birth of the baby अगर lecithin present नहीं होता तो वहां पे बहुत critical condition create हो सकती है, बच्चे की death भी हो सकती है. So that's all about the human respiratory system. In the next video we'll discuss the mechanism of breathing. So keep watching, keep studying and keep learning.